Hi, today I'm going to do a video about the UK voting at 16 and whether the UK Parliament should pass the law for 16-17-year-olds to vote in future general elections, local elections, as well as other elections such as referendums in the UK, and whether it should be put forward in future elections. So I'm going to start off by talking about the history of voting in the UK. The history of voting in the UK, well, it was first introduced in 1884 by William Gladstone, who was a Liberal Prime Minister from August 1892 to 1894. This amended the UK voting laws in the UK, which meant that people could vote. And then in 1918, the Representation of the People's Act was passed just after World War One, created by John Stuart, who was a Liberal MP, and that was just before the collapse of the Liberal vote, which saw the rise of Labour and the collapse of the Liberal Party, which started the tradition of Labour versus Conservatives as we have now in the UK. And John Stuart Mill, he came up with the idea that voting should be included to include more sections of society, and it was passed, which meant that all men in the UK from age 18 onwards could vote in UK general elections, as well as women from the age of 30 years onwards to vote, as long as they owned a house. This law was passed by the suffragette movement, which saw women protesting, demonstrating, doing everything they could to make sure their voice was heard and they could vote in future general elections in the UK, as that was campaigned for just before and during World War One. And then in 1928, another Reform Act was passed, and it meant that women from the age of 21 years old onwards could vote. And this meant that an extra 5 million women could now vote in UK general elections, while before that, as I said before, it was only people from ages of 30 onwards for women. Then in 1969 it changed again, meaning that women from the age of 18 onwards could vote. And since then, 1969, since that's been passed, it has remained the same. Voting has remained the same in the UK. However, in more recent times, there's been an argument which has been made and put forward by mainly Labour MPs to reduce the voting age to include 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in UK general elections in the future. So, the debate for 16 and 17-year-olds to vote was first discussed in December 1999. The debate for UK voting has only recently been announced by Labour, Lib Dems and Greens, but before that the debate about whether to introduce it has been discussed a long time before that. In December 1999, the voting age was first considered in the committee to allow votes at 16. It was suggested by a man called Simon Hughes. However, it was rejected by a large majority, 434 votes to 36, 434 against to 36 for the vote. And in January there was a second reading through a private member's bill. And then in 2004 the Electoral Commission had a major researching vote at 16, but recommended that it should not be passed to be included, and it remained at 18. However, a free vote was given on the bill, another free vote, and it was voted against, this time by a smaller majority. It was voted against, 136 voted against it, 128 voted for it, so there's only 8 votes in it, so very small minor against vote for that. And then Chancellor Gordon Brown, who before 2007 he was Chancellor before Tony Blair resigned, he said that he was in favour of voting 16. However, he said that he was only in favour of it if there was political education taught in schools in the UK. If that wasn't achieved, then he was against it. And however, the SNP, Scottish National Party, which exists only in Scotland, in favour of taking Scotland out of the UK and becoming an independent country, basically. It was in favour of reducing the voting age to 16-year-olds in 2007, as well as powers being devolved to allow it so that it exists in Scotland but not in the rest of the UK. And Vote 16 was then later debated at Parliament during the debate in October 2009, later on, by young people, and it was one of the top 5 issues voted by young people that had been passed through as a main policy for the next year, 2009-2010. So what this basically meant was that young people in the local areas were all campaigning from the years 2009-2010 to decide on whether voting at 16 should be passed. And it was passed, and as I said, it was main policy of the year, so people were all debating in the UK whether to allow Vote 16 from young people. However, there was no national action taken on it. Then, in Labour, in December 2014, said that if it was to win a general election in 2015 with an overwhelming majority, that it would be in favour of voting 16-17-year-olds given the vote. And then 16-17-year-olds weren't given the vote in the EU referendum, which is more recent. It could have remained win if there was a high turnout from young people, as I'll go on to discuss a bit later on this video, that turnout for younger people is lower compared to other types of people who are aged older than them. And 58% of people surveyed from 1,000 people from the age of 16-17-year-olds either agreed or strongly agreed that politics in the UK is too difficult to understand, with 29% neither agreeing or disagreeing. The other people, 12%, either disagreeing or strongly disagreeing with that claim. So it shows from that survey that 58% of people don't understand about it. Maybe because there's not enough information for them. Maybe they're not sure how it works. Maybe they just don't find it interesting and think that it doesn't matter who you elect into government. None of them are going to do anything for you. It's just down to you, yourself, as an individual. Don't know, there's majority of different reasons why people don't understand it, but that's their opinion. Now let's have a look at UK voter turnout in general elections over the years. So in the 2001 UK general election, from people ages of 18 to 24, the turnout, overall voter turnout in that general election for 2001 was 39% people aged between the years of 18 to 24-year-olds. Now, compared to people from the ages of 25 to 34, turnout for them, that group of people, was 46%. 35 to 44-year-olds turnout for those group types of people was 59%. 45 to 54-year-olds turnout was 65%. 55 to 64-year-olds turnout was 69%. And people ages 65 or above turnout for that type of people was 70%. So what that shows is that voting has increased as the age has increased. So the younger you are, the less likely you are to vote. However, the older you are, the more likely you are to vote in future general elections. Now, from the people ages between 18 to 24-year-olds, as I said, turnout was 39%. 27% of those people between ages 18 to 24-year-olds voted Conservative. However, 41% of people aged between 18 and 24-year-olds voted Labour, and 24% of people aged between 18 to 24-year-olds voted for the Liberal Democrats, with the other 9% of people voting for other political parties outside of the main three of Conservative, Labour or Lib Dem in that 2001 general election. Now, let's have a look at the 2005 general election turnout. People aged between 18 and 24-year-olds overall turnout for people aged between 18 and 24-year-olds was 37% turnout in the 2005 general election, which is again a low turnout compared to the overall turnout in that general election at that time. Turnout for 25 to 34-year-olds was 49% overall vote turnout for 25 to 34-year-olds. People aged between 35 to 44-year-olds, vote turnout was 61%. People aged between 45 to 54-year-olds, turnout was 65%. People aged between 55 to 64-year-olds, vote turnout was 71%. And people aged 65-year-olds or more was 75% turnout in 2001 general election. So again, as I said before, turnout for 18 to 24-year-olds is the lowest, and as the ages increases, the turnout increases, which is the exact same thing in this 2005 general election. Now, in 2005 general election, people aged between 18 to 24-year-olds, 28% of those people voted for the Conservative Party. 38% of these people voted Labour, and 26% of people voted for the Liberal Democrats, with the other 8% of people voting for other political parties outside of Labour, Conservatives or Lib Dems. So again, it shows that age turnout is lower, and the majority of people aged in the younger generation from 18 to 24-year-olds are more likely to vote for Labour or the other political parties in the UK. Now, in the 2010 general election, voter turnout was for 18 to 24-year-olds was 44%, which is 7% more than what it was in 2005, so it does show quite a big increase there. However, again, compared to the other age groups, it is the lowest rate. 25 to 34-year-olds turnout was 55%, 1% more than 18 to 24-year-olds. 35 to 44-year-olds turnout was 66% turnout. 45 to 54-year-olds turnout was 69%. 55 to 64-year-olds turnout was 73%, and people aged 65 years old or more was 76% voter turnout. Now, turnout for 18 to 24-year-olds, the way people voted in that general election, 30% of people voted Conservative, 31% of people voted Labour, and 30% of people voted for the Liberal Democrats, with the other 9% of people voting for other political parties outside of the main three parties. So again, the majority of people aged between 18 and 24-year-olds are more likely to vote for Labour compared to the other parties. Now, in the 2015 general election, voter turnout for 18 to 24-year-olds in the 2015 general election was 43%. Voter turnout for 25 to 34-year-olds was 54%. Voter turnout for 35 to 44-year-olds was 64%. Voter turnout for 45 to 54-year-olds was 72%. Voter turnout for 55 to 64-year-olds was 77%. And voter turnout for people aged 65 and over was 78%. So again, 18 to 24-year-olds are coming bottom in terms of voting age for the youngest generation. Now, of these 18 to 24-year-olds, let's see how they voted. 27% of people between the ages of 18 and 24-year-olds voted Conservative in the 2015 general election. 43% of people between 18 to 24 voted Labour. 5% of people voted for the Liberal Democrats. 8% of people between 18 to 24 voted UKIP. 8% of people voted Green, and the other 9% of people voted for other political parties outside of these 5 parties I've just stated. So again, it shows that Labour has the highest voting record from 2001. This is from 2000 to 2015 in every general election. Now, let's see what the parties actually have to say on their stances on votes at 16. And surprise, surprise, Labour, in their 2015 manifesto, he actually wrote down they will give 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds the vote by May 2016 if they were to win the general election, which, as we know now, they didn't win the general election. However, that was probably one of their intentions to do it. Green Party also stated that they would be in favour of lowering the voting age to 16. The Liberal Democrats say that they would be in favour of voting it, stating 2020 will be the first general election in which 16-year-olds can vote. The Liberal Democrats has been the only political party in the UK who has stated that they've been in favour of 16-year-olds voting in UK general elections since 2001, as they've stated it on every general election manifesto from 2001 to 2015. Now, from the figure I've just told you, it should come to no surprise whatsoever that Labour, as well as the Greens and the Liberal Democrats, are in favour of lowering the voting age. And this can be down to a number of reasons, but the main thing to say is that Labour know, as well as the Greens and the Lib Dems, that if they were to do that, to lower the voting age to 16 and 17-year-olds included, that they would probably immediately win a lot more votes compared to the Conservatives, let's say, and that can help them win general elections more likely in future. However, the problem, as Gordon Brown stated in his speech, which I told you earlier on, is that people in the UK are less educated from the age of 16, 17-year-olds, are less educated from the school. The school system in the UK is basically a form of propaganda designed to promote left-wing media and basically tell everyone that capitalism is the problem, the crisis in the world, and that the only way to reform that is through socialism. And that's probably why a lot of teachers from schools in not just probably the UK, but I think you can also see it in other countries as well, is that they are all in favour of socialism over capitalism. And you can see this if you watch the youth parliament debate. You can see that the education system is a form of propaganda, because in the youth council parliament which they had, there was a majority of people saying that they were all in favour of reducing the voting age to 16, 17-year-olds, with them also making comments which can be considered as being left-wing because they were in favour of increasing corporation tax, meaning businesses are affected, and other things as well, like increasing the high rate of income tax. So, as you can see, shows school system is form propaganda. So it's no surprise that Labour is in favour of voting 16-year-olds because it's just going to help them prop up votes. And from a personal standpoint, I'm against it because when we discuss this at school as well, you can see that a lot of people are in favour of votes at 16. However, the difference between the people who are in favour of votes at 16 and people who are not is that people who are in favour of it and votes at 16, they all have an interest in politics, while the people who don't have an interest in politics are saying, we don't know anything about politics, so we're against it. We're against vote 16 because we don't have much understanding or interest in vote 16. So I think the thing you'll find with it is that a lot of people who have an interest in politics are generally in favour of vote 16, while people who are not don't have an interest in it. So I think that's the main thing to understand about it, but I think vote 16, it would reduce the vote turnout, because as I stated, the older you are, the more likely you are to vote, while the younger you are, the less likely you are to vote. So I think that you'll find that if vote 16, 17-year-olds was allowed, then turnout would be lower in general elections for 16, 17-year-olds, but also that it would just probably wouldn't work because there wouldn't be enough participation, and it would be considered a participation crisis in the UK as a result of the low turnout, which would probably be seen. So for those reasons, I'm against vote 16, but I guess that's the different parties' views on it. Conservatives are against it because they know they'll lose votes. Labour are in favour of it because they know that they'll get more votes, but that's the party's policies. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be making more videos in the future. I plan to do about 2 videos per week discussing different issues in the UK, discussing about them, talking about them, getting people's points of view on it, as well as facts, information and stuff, so on. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you again and do some more videos in the future. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you again soon in the future. Bye.